Hello and welcome to my channel. Today I'm going to be doing another vintage stereo review, and what I have today is a Nakamichi 530 stereo receiver. This was built from 1978 to 79, and I tried to figure out the original suggested retail price, and it went anywhere like from $690 I think to about $850. So we can say at least it was at least $690. The Nakamichi 530 also has like a bigger brother or bigger sister, if you will. It's the Nakamichi 730. But those are very rare. I've rarely seen those. The Nakamichi 530s, those are pretty rare too. I mean, you probably would not find them at a garage sale or something like that. But if you ever do find one, you should pick one up. So anyways, let me go ahead and get started with the actual review. And of course, I just want to add that Nakamichi is a Japanese company, or at least it was a Japanese company. I don't know about now, but when I first started out with audio equipment, that was at the end of the 70s. Nakamichi was really like a high-end brand, and at least for the stuff they made back then, that's still my opinion. They're still very high-end, and I think later on they started making what's called lifestyle products, and I don't believe they're really such high quality. Well, it's a shame actually, because Nakamichi, they actually started out in 1948, I believe, and they still exist today, as I said, but I don't know at the moment what they make. I did have a unit like I think it was out of the mid-90s. It was a Soundspace 5, it's called, and I thought that was kind of like, had lots of plastic, and it was a receiver. It was okay, but I think when it came out, it was definitely overpriced, and I wouldn't really call it high quality audio. So without further ado, let me get to my little review here so I don't make this video too long. So now here we go with the review. Now, as far as the specs are concerned, those can be either found in my description of this video, or they can be found online, so I'm not going to spend like 10 minutes reading a whole bunch of specs. But I do have to say the specs, just overall in general, are quite good for a piece of audio equipment made way back then. Of course, this is a stereo receiver, so it has a tuner, preamplifier, and a main amplifier built into it. Now, Nakamichi rated this thing at 55 watts per channel, and that is a minimum continuous sine wave at 8 ohms from 10 to 20,000 hertz. And at that power level, it's supposed to be putting out less than 0.02% total harmonic distortion, which is pretty low. Now, let me turn the light back on here. Now, if we get to the front here, this thing only has 4 conventional rotary controls, and that's bass, treble, balance, and volume. Now, the larger model, the big brother, big sister model to this is the Nakamichi 730, which I had previously mentioned. Now, that is totally just uses these touch sensor controls. It doesn't use rotary like this. That's the only thing I don't like about this thing, is the controls. If you can see my finger here, they're kind of like recessed here, and the knobs are only sticking out a little bit. I guess what they were trying to do is trying to get close to something like touch sensor controls, but not enough. Of course, you can also turn them like this with your thumb, but I'm used to like just taking a knob and turning it. Well, I guess it's a matter of personal opinion. Some people like it, some people don't. Of course, I think this thing it only came in all black, so there's no silver version. And the front here, at least the front plate here, that is plastic. This is not metal. So this is just something that you need to know up front. But the rest of it, of course, is the top here is metal and the sides is metal. Of course, the bottom is metal also. Another thing I should point out right from the get-go, this thing only gets FM. There's no provision for AM reception. So if you're a big AM listener, this receiver is definitely not for you. And when I said this thing uses touch sensor switches, I mean, like for example with the tuning, you do have a conventional tuning capacitor inside the unit. And normally you have, like over here, normally on the right, you have a big knob that you turn. Not this one. I'm going to show you what this one here does. I have an antenna hooked up to the back right away. The sound is off because I don't have any loudspeakers hooked up at this very second. You can see what happens here. You hit these touch sensor switches and it actually goes ahead and finds a station for you. And I think when you get to the end, I think what it does, does it go back? No, it goes back one. And over here you can see when it's locked into stereo, there's stereo. And of course you got FM mute. It's coming on between stations, because what that does, that mutes the noise between stations. Like normally when you're dialing, that irritating static. Now this does have a linear dial scale here, you can see. And I think here when you're really locked onto a station, the LEDs left and right will really lock on good. If not, they will not come on. I think I can go ahead and demonstrate that by just removing the antenna for a second. So antenna is removed. Now you can see me suddenly these little green lamps here, they don't light no more. That means we're having no reception. Well, we've got reception there even though we don't have an antenna hooked up. So yeah, it's still getting something. It's amazing, but it's not getting very much. I guess what it does, it travels to the end, and then if it doesn't find anything else, it goes back to the last station that it actually found. Now we'll take a closer look at the controls here. By the way, the finish is the plastic finish it's in matte black, and Nakamichi logo here. I think I read something about this before. This is the circle here is supposed to represent the Earth, with half of it being in darkness and the other half being basically in daylight. Well, let me get back to what I was talking about. Of course, you have conventional headphone jacks. You got a subsonic filter, so basically, say for example, if you had a warped record, that can what that does is that can inject basically damaging subsonic sounds to the speakers. When I say subsonic sounds, I mean that is frequencies being below what the human ear can hear. Say from 20 to 20,000 hertz. Now, so this would be below that. It might be, who knows, 10 hertz or 5 hertz or whatever. I haven't taken an exact look at this. Of course, this is mono stereo. This is your loudness control. I think everybody knows what that's for. That has to do with when you have the unit on and you don't have much volume. The human ear doesn't hear in a linear fashion. So when you put the loudness control on, it makes up for that. Basically, makes up for that difference. And this is the audio mute. Now this mutes, but I think it's like 20 decibels down, but you can still hear a very little bit. And this is, of course, your FM mute. That's when you're going in between stations, so you don't get that staticky, that hiss. And here you got your high blend, basically your high blend control. And what that does, basically, that reduces noise. Say if you're far away from a station, if you ever picked up a station like in a car or something, and it's all hissy, doesn't sound very good. Well, what this does, if you hit this, it reduces the noise, but it also affects the stereo separation somewhat. Now this switch here, which is a threshold switch, that just increases the sensitivity. See, I've got it pushed in right now, and I'm getting quite a good number of stations. Now, when I back this out here, when I go ahead and put it, it's got two settings, 20 dBF and 40 dBF, and 20 dBF, that's going to mean it needs a lower it's going to need a lower signal to lock on, and 40 is going to need a higher signal. So with the 40, then I should be getting less stations now, which you can actually see. It's going over like that. And what else we got here? You got your phono input, your FM input. Like I said, there's no AM. Then you got your aux input, and you got your tape monitor. So if you got a tape recorder hooked up, you can monitor that. And over here are basically your conventional rotary type switches, which I do it like this. If you look here, it's got a bunch of indentations here on the knob itself. You could also do it like this, but for me, it just feels kind of awkward. All the way to the right is your power switch and your AB speakers. You can hook up two sets of speakers. And of course, this is a tuning switch, which I've been removing the whole time. You can see it here, stereo light, and in between stations is the FM muting. That's, of course, that mutes the noise between. And here you got preset stations, which I have not locked in, evidently. It's moving though, it's locking onto something. So, and these are basically your presets. You lock them in this way here. You turn this. And put the antenna back on. So in case you want to know how you set up the preset radio stations, what you do, for example, you hit the B. Let's say I wanted to set up button A. So there's button A, and if we go here, we can see where it's at there. It's at almost at 9, somewhere around 96. Let's say if I wanted to set it up to the next station. So what I do is I turn this knob below that. I'm going to turn it to the right, and then the pointer should move to the right. You can actually see it moving there. Let's turn this all the way up to around 98. So right there. Now that then now is going to be my next, basically my next preset. Now I'm going to go off of that. Just going to go ahead and just turn randomly backwards. So, and it should stop there somewhere. Okay, it's stopping right there. Now watch what happens when I hit the A button right here. And it should stop at, what did I say, 98? That's what I had set it up for. There it goes. So you can set up 4 preset stations. And of course, I don't have a user manual, so I had to figure this out for myself. Now I've turned the unit around, and we can see here there's provisions for attaching a 300 ohm balanced antenna. This is just a dipole antenna or a 75 ohm unbalanced antenna. Going over here, we can see you can hook up a total of 4 speakers, and here, all you do here is when you put your speakers in, you just pull up on this little lever here, and these are spring loaded, and so when you release the actual wire, or I would say it's speaker wire, not cable, it'd be actually locked in here. And over here you've got your main pre-out. You got a main pre-out provision, and you can pull, there's jumpers here. You can actually pull these jumpers out. And that would be, for example, if you wanted to hook up an equalizer or something in between the preamplifier output and the main amplifier input. And here we've got your normal jacks, rec out, the play in, tape in. This is your aux, and this is your phono for hooking up a record player. And this here is, of course, a ground connection here that you hook up your turntable to reduce hum. Now I have taken the liberty and opened this thing up just to point a few things out. That's the power transformer. Here's the mechanical tuning capacitor I was actually talking about. If I were to hit one of those touch sensor buttons, you'd see this here turning and moving. This seems like to be a combination power supply and main amp board. Here you can see the big old heat sinks. Here, protection relay. These two fuses here are for this power amp section. And here, this thing here, I haven't checked the other side of this, but I can tell you for sure it's going to be the preamplifier, and this is under a shield. Most likely this is the FM section here. I mean, it's not going to be located way over there. It's going to be close to the tuning capacitor. Is there anything else I want to point out here? Yeah, there's two types of protection in this unit. One is using a protective relay. Say, for example, if you have DC voltage at the speaker outputs, which you're not supposed to have. Also, this has a thermal protection circuit in there too. So if it gets too hot, so you're kind of like doubly secured. Although I'm pretty sure something could go wrong, and of course the output transistors could all end up being bad. Anything else I want to add to this video? I think if you buy one of these units, first of all, you have to make sure that the cosmetics are all good, that the outside doesn't have any marks, because for me that's important, for especially for resale or just to look at the thing, because you don't want to have no big old scratches in your thing. Also, a lot of times if a unit's in bad shape outside, it's often in bad shape inside too, because the thing has just been plain abused over the years. So I would stay away from buying one that isn't really good cosmetically. Also, I might point out another thing that you might have to watch out for. When you buy one of these units, you got to make sure these things are, these little preset tuning knobs here, they're not broken, they're long and they're hollow. And these things basically, I'm not going to do this now because I don't want to stand a chance of breaking anything. But in case you do have to take off the faceplate, you just pull these out here before you take the faceplate off. That would be the easiest way to do it that way, because when you sometimes remove these faceplates, you might have to hold them at an angle or something like that. You don't want to break any of these off. I think it's about all you gotta watch out for. Other than that, of course, got to make sure the faceplate is not totally warped or something like that. So the faceplate will be pressing on the knobs here. So anyway, thanks so much for watching, and I don't play any music in these reviews, first of all because of copyright issues, and number two, I have a built-in microphone in my camera, so the reproduction is not going to be very faithful. But here's what happens when you turn it on. You shouldn't hear a loud pop. This thing's got a mute circuit built in. And this unit sounds, acoustically, this unit sounds pretty good. I hope this review was somewhat informative. Thanks again for watching.